Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Minister of Tobago Development says the outline of plans for the island represents futuristic thinking for self-sustainability. The National Security Minister insists the fight against crime is a collective responsibility, and residents of Lane Street in Arima express gratitude for their newly paved road. Thank you for joining us. 1 week after Finance Minister, the Honorable Larry Hawai, announced the allocation of over $3.5 billion for the island of Tobago, Minister of Tobago Development, Dr. Delmon Baker, says the outline of plans for the island represents futuristic thinking for the island's self-sustainability. His comments came when he addressed the lower house as the budget debate continued.
Tobago Development Minister Dr. Delmon Baker is describing this year's budget allocation for Tobago as visionary. Speaking at the continuation of this year's budget debate, Minister Baker says government has come up with a number of proposals for the development of the island aimed at placing Tobago back on the tourism map, and notes that this year's budget is proof of government's commitment to Tobago.
This is simply a government doing what it was elected to do, a government acting responsibly on behalf of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Dr. Baker says plans for Tobago include the establishing of several marinas that will attract tourists interested in docking their yachts along the island.
In Tobago, we plan to put in 2 marinas using private investors. They will come in, we will facilitate them in their purchase of the land, and we will assist them in the development of marinas in Tobago. I have 2 investors now who are waiting and looking with great interest at property in Southwest Tobago East to develop a facility that will allow for high-end arrivals into Tobago, people who will spend money and cause that money to redound to the masons and the carpenters and the fishermen on Tobago. That is the vision.
He further adds that government will seek to include Tobago in the oil and gas sector as part of the development of the island.
Energy. Friendship Estate, the lands will be used to create this energy bridge between Trinidad and Tobago and give Tobago a significant footprint in the oil and gas sector. Tobago is now coming into production by 2017 as the wells of Block 22. And the Minister of Energy reminds me to speak of the Roxborough gas station. If you see the building that's there now is a building with barely a roof with 2 old pumps. The people of Tobago have been suffering.
Police station, the fire station.
If the station, and there's so much going on. The police stations, the fire stations change too, Mr. Speaker, will come to Tobago.
This year, Tobago received a $3.356 billion allocation in the 2013 budget, topping last year's allotment to the THA of almost $2.2 billion. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Meanwhile, National Security Minister the Honorable Jack Warner continues to insist the fight against crime is a collective responsibility. Making his contribution to the budget debate in the lower house, Minister Warner sought to show that the government inherited many problems in law enforcement from the previous administration.
Speaking at the budget debate in the House of Representatives in Tower D, Port of Spain International Waterfront Centre, Mr. Warner says he looks forward to the day when murders would be a thing of the past.
The fight against crime is not our business or even theirs. The fight against crime, Mr. Speaker, is the collective responsibility of all of us. And this country will rise or fall depending on how each of us assumes our responsibility.
He says live until there were 81 murders for the year, the last one on September 9th. In 4 roads, there were 10 murders, the last one on September 10th. In West End Diego Martin, there were 14 murders, the last one on September 10th. In Carenage, there were 4 murders, the last one on June 16th. Mr. Warner says Laventil had 81 murders, with the last one occurring on September 9th. However, there will be several measures put in place to help combat this issue. And Mr. Warner warns that his government will not give up the fight.
We have SRPs. We bring 32 commercial, 32 community outreach centers where the police and the community, Mr. Speaker, shall work hand in hand. Mr. Speaker, on November 2011, we have a family day in Laventille, Sorghum Trace, where we call in all the people in Laventille, and we call in all the firms, all the top firms, and they put in booths and so on, and telling the people in Laventille they can give them jobs to do this, to do that, to do the other, and give the people in Laventille particularly the respect which they deserve, Mr. Speaker. So therefore you give them dignity and respect.
32 community outreach centers, CCTV cameras and more are just a few of the anti-crime initiatives announced by the National Security Minister Jack Warner during the budget debate in Parliament. Minister Warner says government is to establish a joint command center as part of its many anti-crime initiatives.
Every division of the police shall now have an operation center where the police have this center in each division, and people can now have their own CCTV, and they can take a feed direct to the police link, and they shall be manned by civilians, Mr. Speaker, and therefore we shall have all our eyes and ears on them. Unprecedented. And this, Mr. Speaker, begins in Port of Spain before Christmas, or by Christmas. So therefore, every division, and then this division, Mr. Speaker, will then have a national center where they shall be looked at.
The command center, Mr. Warner says, will seek to speed up the police response time, and he claimed government's crime-fighting measures have resulted in a reduction in crime in Laventille and other areas. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Still on the budget debate, the Minister of Local Government, Dr. the Honorable Suraj Ratan Rambachan, says his government will not impose austerity measures on citizens and will continue to find alternative ways to raise revenue and manage the affairs of the country.
It is perhaps the most stimulating debate on the budget of all times, one that is encouraged by the measures outlined in the 2012-2013 national budget, amid at improving this country's international competitiveness and ease of doing business. In his contribution on the debate, Minister Rambachan underscored that this budget, the government has the interest of the people at heart.
We will not make the poor poorer. In fact, this budget is intended to lift the poor to a different level where they can enjoy a better quality of life. What you should have also said is that the Minister of Finance has indicated and has put in the public domain that he intends to bring down the deficit by 1% per year. And when you talk about reform of the system, you will recall that there was an amnesty with respect to the collection of taxes, income taxes, and I think that has borne fruit. So there are alternative ways in which the government can raise revenue that will be for the benefit of the population.
Minister Rambachan sought to remind the opposition of the initiatives and incentives that were implemented by the government, one in particular where Trinidad and Tobago came out on top in the Deepwater Round Bid 2012.
You went on further to talk about the fact that we had the best Deepwater round bid ever in the country. In the country. So you have contradicted yourself. What you really was, you're so much looking for something to say that there's a lack of confidence in the government, but you gave the government, as you did, and thank you for it, a vote of confidence in what the government is doing in Trinidad and Tobago. And then you went on to say we have no foreign direct investment. Remember, for point 14, you should really go back and read the budget documents. Page 14 again. Foreign direct investment continues to be buoyant, averaging US $879 million in the period 2010 to 2012. And if I multiply that by an average of 6.5, that amounts to $5,720 million in foreign direct investment during this period. So you cannot say that there is no foreign direct investment. The whole world is suffering from the matter of investment.
Joseph Lopez, News 4.
More news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Residents of Lane Street in Arima are expressing heartfelt gratitude to their MP, the Honorable Dr. Lincoln Douglas, and by extension the government for their newly paved road.
For almost 40 years, residents of Lane Street in Arima clamored to have their road paved. They say the road was beyond impassable and made life for them quite uncomfortable. Finally, after the long years of discomfort, the relieved residents say they have much reason to celebrate. Speaking at an appreciation gathering at Lane Street in Arima, MP for the area Dr. Lincoln Douglas described the pain endured by the residents of the area.
Today, this road is a completely brand new road. On both sides of the road there are drains. It is fully paved. Before we paved the road, we had to make sure that they put down a 4-inch water lane to take and to run water to all of the houses, and all of that has been done.
Dr. Douglas says he is proud to represent his constituency of Lopino Bonnet West.
This is another representation of the government and the People's Partnership and the work that we are doing. I am happy to be a representative for Lopino Bonnet West and the development of the constituency. I have pledged myself to work hard for the people of Lopino Bonnet West, infrastructural development, education, sports and culture, and making people's life more meaningful. And this is another example of how this government has been contributing to the lifestyle and the way that people live.
This resident says she is overwhelmed that the road is finally paved. She is thanking the relevant authorities for the work they have done.
I've been here 40 years now. I'm the first person came down in this lane down there, Mistress Mansigi. And I'm always waiting for the road and asking Jesus, when we will get this road? And Mr. Hope came in and he visited and asked him, and he told me, well, all you'll soon get the road. And I just want to thank him, thank all the other ministers and them, thank all the workers and them that work on the road. I just want to thank every one of them. And I want to thank our Prime Minister. And I wouldn't vote for nobody else more than she.
Joseph Lopez, News 4.
A workshop on cardiology was held at the Hyatt titled Expediting Emergency Care for Acute Myocardial Inflammation in Trinidad and Tobago, organized by the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association. The conference provided a one-day forum for the discussion of care for patients with myocardial infarction.
The program is specifically designed for caregivers involved in the emergency transportation of care for patients ailing from heart disease.
This is a pie graph from your Ministry of Health website, which indicates the total mortality of acute myocardial infarction in Trinidad and Tobago. This is for all age groups. What it shows is that 1 out of 4 deaths in Trinidad and Tobago is due to heart disease. So it's a very common cause of death and, of course, of morbidity.
Dr. Thomas Avasano, professor of medicine, who specializes in interventional cardiology as well as general cardiology, presented facts on the numbers of persons afflicted by heart diseases in the country.
This identifies the leading causes of death. This again is from your Ministry of Health website, among different age groups in Trinidad and Tobago. And the important thing here is that in the adult population, in individuals over the age of 45 and above, myocardial heart disease is the #1 cause of death, morbidity and mortality in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's a disease which tends to affect, as you already know, older individuals.
The program also presented issues related to implementation of best practices in the emergency evaluation and management of patients, as well as strategy development sessions for the regional health authorities.
This is an interesting slide. On the left is the distribution of the population in Trinidad and Tobago in the year 2000. I don't know if I can point here, but at the bottom of this graph are individuals aged 0 to 4 years, and then 5 to 9 years, and then at the very top of the graph represents the number of patients who are 80 years and above, not patients, but population. On the right side is that same distribution in 2010. And what it tells us is, as you can see, the wider bars are going up towards older age groups, that the population in Trinidad and Tobago is aging. So you're doing a very good job at keeping people alive, or the younger people are leaving, whatever the case is. But the individuals in Trinidad and Tobago are getting older. And so the prevalence of heart disease and its importance is not diminishing, it's increasing.
Joseph Lopez, News 4.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Following match day 13 of the Blink B Mobile National Super League, Wassa's lead at the top of the standing has dropped to 1 point. The multi-time champions were held to a 0-0 draw by fellow Easterners Real Maracas, which allowed Joe Public to close the gap with a win over the Defence Force. Wayne Cunningham has the highlights from that match.
Two teams at the opposite ends of the points table met on match day 13 of the National Super League. Defending champs Joe Public FC were in second place, while the men of the Defence Force were second from bottom when the two teams faced off at the Marvin Lee Stadium in Macoya. Ricardo Bennett was working hard to get something started for Joe Public and must have been disappointed with Donovan Derrick's effort. Derrick tried to make up for that miss with a fantastic run and shot, but Sherlon Wheeler did well in the Defence Force goal. Chances for the military men were few and far between in the first half. Jamal Goodridge not even getting close to this neat pass from Dexter Thornhill. As the rains came, Joe Public continued to surge forward, and they were rewarded in the 33rd minute when Ellis Diat finally utilized a cross from Bennett. Public's leading scorer, wrong-footing the defender to make it 1-0. Bennett was not satisfied and still caused problems, but the finishing of Goodridge did not improve, as the half ended with the Eastern Lions in the lead. Ricardo Bennett was relentless and must have been frustrated with his forwards as they continued to waste chances in the second half. Public was almost punished when Keston Williams got in behind the defense, but he wasted the only opportunity for an equalizer. In the dying stages, Bennett tried to do it all alone, but his effort went agonizingly wide. "1-0 is how it would stay, thanks to the poor finishing by Joe Public. The win put the Eastern Lions within a point of zonal rivals Wassa FC, with Westside Superstars of the North in third, a further 3 points back, following a 2-2 draw with bottom club Beach United. Match day 14, which will be contested on Sunday, could be crucial in deciding the championship, with Wassa meeting Joe Public in a top-of-the-table clash at the Marvin Lee Stadium in Macoya. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
News 4 continues after the break. Young Chelsea Gabriella Mangaroo has placed first in all the entries submitted in this year's TT Post letter writing competition and third in the world. The competition, which is organized by Universal Postal Union, invited students to participate in its competition under the theme asking them, write a letter to an athlete or sports figure you admire to explain what the word Olympics means to you. Her letter addressed to Olympic medalist Hazley Crawford is proof that this country's first Olympic medalist continues to make an impact on lives regardless of age.
11-year-old Chelsea Gabriella Mangaroo, winner of this year's TT Post letter writing competition, has not only topped youngsters entering the competition locally, but has placed third in the world out of over 5 million entries. Her winning letter addressed to Trinidad and Tobago's first Olympic gold medalist, Hazley Crawford, who she describes as a hero, tells of the impact his achievement continues to have on generations long after his 1976 win.
I discovered your accomplishments sometime later, Standard 3 to be exact, where I was reading a lesson about your achievements in my text, The Republic Reader. The year was 1976. The stage was Montreal, Canada, and even though I was not around yet, the pride and honor of calling oneself a Trinidadian back then has not lessened today. You have set an achievement in stone that no one can erase.
Chelsea's letter, while humbly apologetic to the Olympic giant for innocent awe and opportunity to express her admiration to one of our local heroes, speaks volumes of what his medal has brought to Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Crawford, I hope I am not boring you, but the fact that I have this opportunity to write this letter has made me ecstatic. In school, we are currently engaging in work that is aimed at developing awareness about the Olympics. I have learned that beside the values that can be readily identified, such as hope, excellence, respect, harmony, friendship, and teamwork, there are educational values which can be derived.
While postal agencies from around the world celebrate World Post Day on October 9th, its umbrella body, Universal Postal Union, UPU, hosted its international letter writing competition, inviting winning entries from national competitions around the world. Chelsea's prizes include a Samsung Galaxy tablet and BlackBerry smartphone, as well as a plaque displaying her achievement. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you so much for joining us.